All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for showing up. It sounds like a cathedral in here, doesn't it? Okay, so what is this about? Porting Qt applications to BlackBerry. There is the two of us. My name is Till Adam. I'm the services director at KDAP. We do Qt consultancy, as you might or might not be aware. This is Fabian. He works with the Qt team at RIM. So far, Toronto, soon Munich. So there's a growing team inside RIM that takes care of Qt, and we've been helping them for the last 2 years or so to get Qt on the various BlackBerry platforms, so Playbook and BlackBerry 10, and also QNX for medical and for automotive and so on. All right, so what we want to talk about today is we assume that you know what Qt is. Does anybody not know what Qt is? That is a relief. Well, I know most of you. I know some of you personally, so I would be Roland, I would be extremely disappointed if you didn't know what Qt is. All right, so you know what Qt is. You might or might not have existing code from other platforms that you've already written in Qt, and you might or might not be thinking to get that onto BlackBerry 10. So who has code that they are concretely looking to port to BB10, into the dev alpha? Okay, very nice. Target audience matches. That is great. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll show you basically what is out there, what you can do, what you cannot do, what your choices are, what the tooling is like, and how to go about it. We have an hour to do that, so that gives us some time to actually look into code and be relatively hands-on for this format. Okay, so to get us started, basically one thing we have to clarify is the whole relationship between Qt and Cascades, because if you're like me, you might have been a little confused about the messaging around Cascades, because RIM likes, of course, to refer to all of this as Cascades. But there is a decent chunk of Qt on the platform, and if you've been to any of the technical sessions, you probably have seen people refer to Qt and to Qt libraries and to Qt APIs. They use QList and QString all over the place. So there is a good amount of Qt in there, and the first thing we wanted to do is clarify what is the relationship between Qt and Cascades and how do they interact, and Fabian will do that.
Okay, so in general, we have two major frameworks on BB10. This is Cascades and QtQuick. In general, from an architectural point of view, Cascades sits above Qt, like all the Qt modules. I painted the boxes there, like. Cascade, this should visualize that Cascades is using like all the modules like XML, SQL, network, but not the Qt GUI stuff. It also uses the Qt declarative engine, but also only the engine, not the paint engine. So like the boxes have over Qt declarative. What this means for developers is you cannot use QtQuick items in a Cascades application, and you cannot use Cascades items in a QtQuick application. So you cannot mix the two frameworks. You have, before writing the application, you have to decide which framework you're taking here. Cascades in general has a own rendering engine that it uses for visualizing stuff. Qt has the raster engine or the OpenGL engine.
So, but it is important to realize that while you cannot mix the two, both of them are fully available, which means if you decide to use Cascades, you use Cascades. You cannot then use other parts of the GUI stack of Qt, but only Cascades. If you, however, decide to use either widgets or QtQuick, as they come with Qt in other platforms, then all of those are fully available. So it's not like you cannot use Qt GUI. This is a very common misconception. People think that the platform doesn't come with Qt GUI. Cascades doesn't use it, but it's there. And as we will show you, it is very much available, and you can make use of it, particularly if you have code that already uses Qt GUI or QtQuick on other platforms, because you might actually want to have a BB10 specific UI done in Cascades, simply because you have a much more native feel and you have all the nice platform integration that you've seen in the other sessions. So that is, of course, a viable option. But if you want the fastest path to running code on BB10, then you can, of course, also use the other frameworks.
In general, Cascades gives you the deepest integration into the platform. So if you're writing an application, we recommend to use Cascades. If you're having your custom UI stuff, like your custom buttons, then QtQuick might be an option for you.
Okay, but it is a choice you have to make up front, because as Fabian said, you cannot mix it. Okay, so the other thing that, I think that's, yeah. The other thing that Qt does on this platform is it provides all of the middleware. So if you're doing something with a location or with sensors or anything like that, all of that is Qt API, and it's the same Qt API that you have on all the other platforms. So those are things that Cascades doesn't use, but that are exposed directly through to the application programmers as the primary platform API. So there isn't a BB10 location API, it's called QLocation, right? And the same for sensors, there's QSensors, which is the API. So there are no wrappers around this, which is a very nice thing if you're coming from a Qt background, because you do not have to have an additional layer in there, as you might have in other platforms. Okay, so what we'll do now is we really start from a real-world example. So what we did literally is go to SourceForge, find a project that uses Qt, download it, and try and get it running on the platform, because we wanted to have a realistic use case, not some, you know, it's easy enough to get the demos running, but we wanted to have something that somebody else has written that we did not tweak or hack in any way. So what we found is a little application that we'll show you in a minute that does visualization of networks. We'll see that in a bit. So what do you need to do? Just on a very high level overview, you need to have a working toolchain, right? You need to be able to build code for the platform. So if you have the toolchain, you take that code that you got from, you know, your own project or somebody else's, and you make it build. That's the first step, obviously. So you'll run into build issues. If you've ever ported anything from anywhere to anywhere, you'll know these kinds of build issues that crop up, include paths and all these little nitty-gritty details. But mostly that's a matter of just getting it done, right? You just make it build, and then you're hopefully done within, let's say, hours. Once you have that, you have something that builds. In order to be able to run it for the first time, you will have to go through the packaging process. So you will have to make what's called a bar file, which is the packaging format they use on BB10, put it in there, set up a little bit of deployment, deploy it to the device, and then you have it running for the first time. So ideally, at this point, you haven't changed any code yet, other than technicalities that are to do with infrastructure on the platform, like includes and linking and so on. So that, of course, means what you have now running is probably not going to look very fancy or very nice. It's definitely not going to be integrated at all, right? So next step usually is you fix whatever look and feel issues you have. So if you have developed this app previously for Symbian, right, to pull a random example, that'll probably not look very nice, so you'll have to start adjusting to resolution and maybe use different icons and so on. So just fix the look and feel. The next step usually then is to have platform-specific runtime problems. So you're playing around with it, it looks halfway decent, but it behaves in weird ways in certain scenarios because this particular device does the rotation handling a little bit different than another one that you used to work with. So you fix those, which is, again, usually not a terribly big deal. And then you might want to go the next step, which means you might want to start adding things that are unique to BlackBerry 10. So you might want to start making use of the features that the platform gives you that aren't necessarily available on other platforms. And when you've done that, at that point you have a reasonably competitive application, let's hope. So, of course, you want to get rich like everybody else who writes apps, right? How many of you have already gotten rich at least 3 times on various platforms writing apps? Yes? Yes, okay. You still show up to this, so I assume you got as rich as me, which is not very rich. All right, so we keep trying, right? So in order to try, what we need to do is we have to push it into the market, which is called App World, of course. And so we take our package thing, we submit it to App World, where it will undergo scrutiny, which means it will be quality tested. They will point out all the things you did wrong, and then once they are satisfied, they will allow you to publish it on the App Store, at which point the money comes pouring in, as we all know, massively and quickly, or not. So those are the steps from a very high-level point of view, and we'll go through some of the details of them to point out a few things that we ran into when we tried this. So basically, you download the NDK. That gives you the toolchain, right? There's something called the BlackBerry 10 SDK. It's sometimes referred to as the SDK, sometimes referred to as the NDK, N being native. So you guys are using the native SDK. You're using Cascades, Qt, C++, C. This is to differentiate it from the Air and the Android runtime or the WebWorks runtime, right? The platform has 4 SDKs, so that's why NDK usually refers to the Qt stack. You can then, if you're Qt people, probably you want to use Qt Creator, right? Anybody using anything else? Yes? No? All Qt Creator people? Yes, vigorous head shaking. So you want to use Qt Creator. And in order to develop for this platform, you will need to use Qt Creator 2.6, which at the time of this presentation has not yet been released. It is, however, in a very, very late beta stage. In other words, the reason why it hasn't been released is because of all the turmoil around Qt lately. The people involved simply had other things to do, particularly hold on to their jobs. So they simply haven't done it. Yes, please.
Why 2.6?
2.6 is because this is ScadeUp, we've, with the help of RIM, done a lot of work to integrate the platforms into Qt Creator, which means with Qt Creator 2.6 you have full support for all the platforms, which means Playbook, BlackBerry 10, and QNX. So you can run from Creator, you can deploy, you have a bar file editor, you have all this infrastructure that you need. Previous versions will work, but you have to manually set up all the toolchain and point it to the right GCC in the right place and so on. So 2.6 comes with proper upstream platform support. And thanks again to RIM for allowing us to do this fully upstream, totally transparently. It is the Qt Creator. There isn't another version of it. It's all upstream right there in Qt Project. So you can download literally the release once it comes out, or go to GitHub or Gitorious or wherever, download it. Okay, the one thing that is specific for working with BlackBerry 10 is you need, if you want to run debug code and non-signed packages, you need something called a debug token. So have you played around with Momentix at all with development for BB10? You might have run into this, right? So there's this thing called the debug token which you generate, which basically identifies you as a developer on a particular machine. You need to deploy this to your device, otherwise nothing will work. You cannot run code otherwise. So in order to do this, you can either fire up Momentix, go to the relevant menus, select it, hit the upload this to device button, which works just fine, of course. Or if you're like me and you were born in the 70s, you probably want to type in a very long arcane command on the command line, right? Yes? You can also copy and paste it from there. But, there is a single line that you have to do once. You deploy this to the device, and that's it. We put it here just so you have the reference in case you ever need it. Once you've gotten past that one, you fire up Qt Creator, and you have to set it up to work with BB10. This is really easy. You enable the QNX plugin. The plugin is called QNX because it's an OS plugin, right? And QNX is the underlying, at least from a technical point of view, marketing people, I do apologize, but it is QNX, right? So it's the QNX plugin. It works on all three platforms. And you set that up. It's not enabled by default because that is the way that the Qt Creator project likes it. As long as it has not passed into proper maintenance state and is in a beta state, it will not be enabled by default. So you have to enable it. And frankly, most other Qt Creator users won't really need it, so that's why it's disabled. So you enable it. You choose the Qt version, which means you point it to the QMake from the NDK, right? Or your own Qt if you have one lying around for the platform. And then you set up what is called a kit. Now, those of you who haven't worked with Qt Creator 2.6, anybody played with 2.6 yet? Yeah. So 2.6 introduces something called a kit, which is basically a combination of a Qt for the platform, the tools, and the device, so that you can easily manage multiple versions across multiple OSs, across multiple devices, which is really actually quite nice. So you can have a kit configured for your playbook or for your dev alpha, and have those in parallel without having to switch. So that's nice. So once you've done that, you are in a position where you can compile code, run it straight out of Creator onto the device. It'll do all the packaging, it'll do all of the deployment, and you will be able to run and debug straight from Creator, which is very nice. And Fabian will be so kind as to show us at least a little bit of that in practice.
Could I get my laptop, please? So I got the newest version from the Git repositories, from the Qt Creator Git repository. Built it with my local Qt for desktop, and I'm running it here. So as Till told us, you first have to enable the plugin. You do this here. In general, you have to restart the Qt Creator afterwards, but after this, the plugin should be enabled and usable. Then we have to set up the Qt version. I have several Qt versions here. This one is the one for BB10. You basically just add a new one, select the QMake. The QMake is in the BB NDK under host Linux x86 user bin QMake. Afterwards, you have to select the native NDK, and then you're good to go with the Qt version. The kit basically just uses the Qt version, so you also have to select it here. And then you are ready to build your project for BB10.
Device?
Yes, if you want to deploy it to the device, however, you also need to set up the device. This is very straightforward. Add a new device, add a new BlackBerry device here. There is a very nice wizard that guides you through this process here. You specify the IP address, device password, the debug token, and it sets up the device for you, basically.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Although there is, for those who have looked into this, there's something called QCon, which is a connection, QNX-specific thing that they use to connect to from Momentix. We will change to that as soon as we have sufficient documentation to do it, which we will get. It's just a matter of the person who wants to give it to us. Well, the reason why SSH isn't perfect is because it requires SSH on the receiving end, which for BB10 isn't a big deal, but on a regular QNX image that you download for QNX, it doesn't usually have SSH installed, so it would be nice if it would work out of the box with basically any QNX SDK that you get from the QNX people, not necessarily the RIM people. So.
You have to specify
your key file?
It creates it automatically. And when you go through the wizard here.
So the question was, do you have to have one? Basically, it will generate a key file for you if you don't have it. Just repeating for the benefit of the recording. Okay. Any question up to this point? It's hopefully relatively straightforward. Okay.
Good. Please back to the slides.
Lovely. So this is using the Qt from the NDK. The alternative, of course, is to use your own Qt. So this is if you ever want to change something in Qt, or if you're a Qt developer. Anybody here hacking on Qt as opposed to with Qt? No? You really should. It's fun. It's a nice code base. It's fun to work on. So, and it's free software. So Qt project, you see. So you can go hack it yourself, or you can download it yourself, build it yourself if you want to, maybe try with different optimization flags and so on. So that, of course, means you then have to deploy it to the device yourself, which makes your package much bigger. So it's generally preferable to use the Qt that comes with the NDK, because that's also what you will find on the device. And then you don't have to put it in your packages and deploy it yourself. But if you ever want to, you can build it yourself and deploy it yourself. Okay. Okay, so to get back to our workflow, we've uploaded the debug token. Again, here's the little the line for this. We have enabled debug mode on the device, which is also important because otherwise it will not let you run code from the outside. You then import this project, your regular QMake project, right, into the creator that we've just set up with support for the platform. You need to select the kit, which we've previously set up, and run. It's as easy as that. The problem is, or it's not a problem, but the NDK, have you ever run Eclipse Momentix from the NDK? Yes? It sets a bunch of environment variables if you do that. And particularly if you want to keep them separate, it might sometimes be necessary to just do that manually from the command line before you do, manual builds on the command line, for example. So there's a shell script, comes with the NDK. I don't recall the name.
BBNDK minus
env something. That is in the top folder of the NDK, and if you run that, it'll set the environment as if it was from within Momentix, or as if it was from within Creator, so that way you can build manually yourself on the command line if you ever need to. Okay. Do you want to show that?
Yeah, sure. Can I have the laptop, please? Okay, so basically, steps are importing the project, just a demo project here. You have to select the kit here. As you see, I have two kits here. One is for desktop, one is for BB10. And basically, click run here. that should work. What is currently not yet working is debugging, but we try to get it into the next version of Qt Creator.
Yep. So there is a branch which does that if you need that. It does technically work. It's unreliable though, so we're not advertising it, but it's functionality-wise, it's there. With a little bit of luck, we'll get it into the final release for 2.6, but we'll see.
So yeah.
Okay.
Back to slides.
So the packaging, as I said, there is something called a bar file, which has an associated bar file descriptor. So that's the file where you set all the various things that you need to include into your package. You can set environment variables and so on. There is a bar file editor in Qt Creator that you can use, but if you ever need to manually edit this, it's an XML file. It's pretty straightforward. It's actually reasonably documented, or in fact, you can use the editor that comes with the Momentix to change these things. This is how you set the paths to where your libraries, your plugins, and your imports are if you want to do those yourself.
This is specific here for having a local Qt build, like not the one from the NDK. Like take it, you build Qt yourself, want to deploy the libraries. This is how you set it up in the bar descriptor file.
Yeah, so if you work with the NDK, usually you don't have to really do much here. Okay. So quickly, if you have a widget-based application, can you just launch the?
Yep.
Yeah, it's got it. Yeah. Yes, please. Sorry about that. So this is the no, it's the wrong one.
Okay, close it. Okay. So we got one application, just a random application, NetEmule. It's open source software from
SourceForge, I think.
SourceForge, yeah. So this is actually a desktop application. As you see, I've two kits here. For desktop, it looks like this. It's a typical desktop application. It has a menu here. Yeah, basically works. What we want to show, or what Till wants to show now, is like how you deploy this for the device.
Yep, so the reason why these fonts look so funky is because I already did a few things. Those are the typical things you need to do. Mainly, you have to adjust for the fact that the DPI is much, much higher on these devices. So you usually want to have bigger font sizes, or at least adjust the iconography a little bit. So generally, you have to adjust font sizes, window sizes, and then you have to deal with the fact that the orientation can change on a device. You have to either use the Navigator API, which is the native API that you get from Cascades, or you can set an entry into the bar file which locks the orientation to either one if your application only supports one. Usually, if you're coming from another platform that doesn't have orientation change, like the desktop, you will just lock it to whatever is the one that works on the desktop. And of course, you also have Qt API for doing this. There used to be a property called lock portrait orientation, which is now called something different in Qt 5, but there is a property that you can set on Q application. At the time of the writing of these slides, that property didn't work, but that's simply a bug, so it should work. So ideally, you should be able to do this with Qt API in a cross-platform way. So that's pretty much it. And then I think the next one, yeah, if we can just go back to the laptop, then we can, or actually back to this, if it's possible.
Probably first the laptop. So it's basically selecting the kit here and running it. So it's building the application. Oh, probably I have debug mode enabled here. Oh, you can switch to device. So, and this is basically the application, how it looks on the device. It's a bit tricky to hit the controls here because they're so small. But it works.
Yeah. And again, this is QtWidgets as we know it from the desktop. So to once and for all lay to rest any rumors that Qt GUI doesn't work on BB10. Okay, can we go back to the laptop? Okay, so that's the widget one. For a QML-based one, oh, sorry about that. It's actually not much more than that. It's actually easier. Fabian, do you want to talk about this?
Just a second.
So basically, you do the same thing. You open up the project in Creator, you select the right kit, you deploy it, you run it. The only thing that we found you will want to do is this.
Yeah, so what you also should make sure is that the that a QtQuick application is rendering to OpenGL. I just pointed it out here in the code example. You basically have to set the viewport in the QDeclarative view to a new QGL widget, and you have to make sure that it uses the full viewport update. But that's basically it. So,
okay. So we took this little application, which is a pure QML application. I think we just run it because we're running out of time. And you get the point at this. It is actually as easy as hitting the run button. So there really isn't that much you need to do. The bit that you will need to do is make use of the specific hardware capabilities, maybe that the BB10 platform gives you. You might hook up to sensors. You might react to shake motions or to holster events. So the things that are nice about BB10 that you maybe don't have on other platforms. But again, you'll usually do that sparingly if you want to have a common code base across all your platforms. Okay, so for device integration, we have, if you're coming from a mobile Qt platform, you will be looking for these. That's why we included them here. There is Qt mobility sensors. There is temperature sensor, rotation, and compass. So orientation and accelerometer. If you know QNX by any chance, I know Roland does, there's something on QNX at the lower level which is called BPS and PPS. Those are the low-level messaging layers. Those are also fully available. You can use them, which means you have access to any and all QNX functionality that you want to do. So for those guys who are in the industrial embedded space, maybe that is very interesting. What's currently in development, this is actually being done by Fabian, is the Bluetooth support. So we do want to support the Bluetooth APIs in Qt. Service inquiry, I don't know about launch. Is that?
It should be out soon in our public repositories. We will show the repositories later. I'm not sure when we can make it into the next public NDK.
But it's supposed to be ready at launch, along with
launch,
NFC and so on. So all of the stuff that you have there should be there at launch. Okay, yes. Hardware-wise, yes. Software-wise, no.
I think NFC is already usable.
Okay.
For now.
It's in the app that we're using to go around to the gate.
Okay, cool. So yeah, then it's there.
It's not usable in Qt Mobility, however.
Yeah, it's not. Sorry. Yeah, should clarify. The device can do it from a hardware point of view. The system can do it from a software point of view. Qt cannot do it, but will be able to do it. Okay. I have to be careful. No.
Not yet.
Not entirely. Will be there, yes. I know it's technically working, but it isn't available in public repos.
Does BlackBerry use the older QtWidgets multimedia framework for playback, or does it use?
I don't think I'm at liberty to tell you, to be quite honest. I probably am, but I just don't want to take any risks. Sorry about that. I know, but I'm not going to tell you. Okay, so Qt 5, for those of you who are following Qt, you might be interested in whether Qt 5 is there and will be there. Short answer, yes. What's currently there is, Fabian has to correct me here, we have Qt-based running, declarative running, the JavaScript backend. We have Qt GUI running. We have Qt 3D, we have QtQuick 1. If you were in the session on Monday, in the super session, I was briefly showing off some GL shader magic from Qt 3D. So all of that is there. Qt 5 is not on the device. It will probably not be on the device at launch. So if you're working with Qt 5, you will have to ship it yourself. But it's small enough for that not to be a huge problem. So we're looking forward to having also Qt 5-based apps on the devices and in the store. Okay, just to prove that point, just wanted to show the same game from, this is the straight-up example from Qt 5, built without any changes, simply imported into Creator, built and run, with all the GL magic that is going on there. Working.
As you see, I'm here in the QDeclarative folder. This is like a fresh version, fresh checkout from the Qt repositories. What I basically did to modify same game are two things to make it run. One thing is we have to change the path for loading the files. Shit, you can see it here. In general, if you deploy an app, all your deployed stuff is landing in app.native in your application sandbox. That is important when loading assets from your folder. So you usually have to append this piece here, and then you're usually good to go.
Or you use resources, which is the portable way of doing this, right?
You can use the QRC files here. So yeah.
Yep, maybe just run it.
I also wrote a small deploy script to show you like how easy it is to actually run it without the Q creator, just on a console. It's actually just two commands. The first is the BlackBerry native packager that creates you the bar file and takes the bar descriptor file, and then calling BlackBerry deploy, device password, and IP. Yeah, that's it.
Can you switch to the device?
So we have the same game here. I also had to do some adjustments here because the screen size was set a bit too small, and like the pixel density on this display is very high. So in the original version, the text and dots were really small. But as you see, it works great.
And you see the little particle animation there?
Yeah.
So that's the whole stack working just fine. Okay, we go into the slides and finish up, because I think we're running out of time.
How's the performance in general compared Cascade versus
Both perform exceedingly well.
Yeah.
It is a really juicy platform from a performance point of view. It really works well. And both work extremely well. They have different trade-offs, so there's different, and particularly Qt5 versus Cascades has some architectural differences and so on. You cannot possibly interrupt the Cascades animations. They will always be super smooth because they run in a separate thread and so on. So there's some architectural differences, but the performance in general, if you're not doing anything wrong, both will rock your world from a performance point of view. Yeah. Even that is plenty fast, yeah. Okay. So yeah, components, just to mention it, if you're coming from Qt, you either use widgets or you use maybe QML components. Just for a matter of completeness, there's something called desktop components, which you might have heard of. That's QML components that use the desktop styles to render themselves. So they look like the native style, but they're using just the API. They're not actually using the widgets, just the style API. And of course, you can use Cascades if you wanted to make a native UI. As far as components, Fabian has actually played around with this. I've heard that people have used the Symbian components and that they actually work just fine. Won't look particularly native, but they work. So the desktop components also work if you want to use those. Again, will not look particularly native. So if you want a combo box, those are your options, basically. There are efforts on the way to make a native QML component set for BB10, which looks like Cascades. But obviously, Cascades is the priority for the moment. OK, so some URLs, if you want to catch up with us.
You want to show the QML application?
All right, yeah, maybe you can just, this will be published, so you just have the URLs here. And if you come to the QNX IRC channel, there's lots of very informed people hanging out there that will help you. There's RIM people there, there's us there, there's a few people from the community there. It's a very helpful bunch, and we do try to be good about documentation. Everything is either on the GitHub BlackBerry wiki, which is relatively comprehensive, managed by Eduardo back there, so he makes sure that there's good content on there. And then there's, of course, the Qt project infrastructure, which also has a lot of information on BB10. So if you don't find it there, send us email. And to close, we want to go back to the device and show you.
We also got a QML application that is actually in the Nokia store, developed by QtWidgets. It's called Splitted. I imported the project here. Again, I have my kids here. I'm just showing you how it works on the desktop. Again, here I have to specify app native when I want to deploy the device, but now I want to show you on the desktop.
Oops. Yeah.
So the application basically looks like this. You can select your amount, like the amount of people, and then the tip. And it shows you like the amount each person has to pay.
It's very simple. If you've ever been to Brazil, that's how they pay their check in Brazil. You know, you could just switch the bill. You just divide by heads in the room. And if you're a Brazilian, you very much need this. It's free in various app stores, including, I'm happy to say, soon in the App World App Store. So just a little gift to the Brazilians out there. OK, do you have any questions? While he runs it on the device.
Oh, first you have to.
I have one more question, maybe about Cascades. Does Cascade allow, what I didn't quite understand, Cascades is still built on top of it, right? So the QObject model?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, QObject, yes. All of the Qt types, anything in Qt Core, Network, SVG, XML, all that is there and usable from Cascades. You can write your own Qt classes, you can export QML types, all of that. But model view consists largely of views, right? You can use in 4 the views and the models are both in the GUI module. So you cannot use that from QML because from Cascades, sorry, because it uses GUI infrastructure that isn't available from Cascades. You cannot make QAbstract item models in Qt 4, which means in the current releases of Cascades. In 5, the models have moved to Qt Core, and they have been made free of UI aspects, which means in Qt 5, if the day ever comes that Cascades moves to Qt 5, then that separation will work again. But for the moment, you have to use the Cascades model view stuff, which is relatively comprehensive. So you don't, but you have to write a new one, yeah.
So just to show you, this is how it looks on the device. I also downloaded it for my N9, and it's exactly the same code base, running on like desktop, Nokia phone, and now on BB10.
Okay, so if there are no more questions. Oh yeah, there's, yep, shoot. You go first.
If you have a really interactive issue like pinching of an image, is that now supported in the Qt that goes out to BlackBerry then, or do I have to do my own declarative views or use Cascades?
Okay, so the question is, are gestures supported in so he was asking about pinch in Zoom, whether that works out of the box. The underlying question is the gesture support there? So, because Qt comes with gesture support, but it's not working on all of the platforms. Particularly on X11, it doesn't work, so if you've ever tried that. On BB10, I actually don't know off the top of my head.
It doesn't work currently, as far as I know.
Okay, the idea is it should work. Ideally, it will work at launch. So certainly, the idea is to use the Qt API. As of today, we are in a beta after all. As of today, it's apparently not working. I'd have to look it up to make sure. But I wouldn't start writing my own declarative view at this point. I would wait for it to start working because we're on extremely short timelines here, and unless you have to publish it next week, I would wait for it to come around because there has been a very clear statement from very high up in RIM that we are not just supposed to make a platform for Qt, we are supposed to make the platform for Qt, which means we will support whatever there is in Qt to be supported. Okay, yeah.
Are there any upcoming Qt conferences I might want to go to?
That is an extremely good question. Yeah, it's funny because 4 or 5 of the organizing companies are in the room. So yes, there is of course the Qt Developer Days, which traditionally Nokia has put on, which this year all the various players in the Qt ecosystem have taken on to do. So there is a conference in Berlin, which will be in, I think on the 14th or around the 14th of November, right? 12th to the 14th of November, and there is going to be one in Santa Clara at the Marriott, I think, and the date is the 5th of December. Is that correct? Yeah, and if you want to go, there's cards there. Go pick them up. Okay, any other questions? All right, then thanks very much for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to come up to us.